So, good afternoon, everyone. Chris Berryman here, coalition builder and founder of Bringing Humanity Together. Welcome, everyone, to our Bringing Humanity Together live stream. Today is, of course, terrific Thursday. Another great day to be alive and another great day to impact humanity, not only to bring humanity together, but to truly bring humanity into business and beyond. This is one of three open forums under the Bringing Humanity Together umbrella where people can discuss topics related to the workplace and humanity in the workplace in a very positive and constructive way. And we want to know what the issues are out there for people today because it is our goal, our mission, our purpose, and I dare say our calling to both worker and employers and employees to bring humanity back into the workforce. And as always, we'll be going live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all at 3 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. Feel free to invite your friends, your coworkers, your colleagues, and yes, even your lazy coworkers. There might be a lazy cat around or a lazy dog. You know how that goes. But there are fur babies, so we got to say, hey, take our fur babies to work day. I love that idea. I think that we should make that even a live stream. Bring your lazy coworkers to work day. I love that. I like that. But as a reminder, uh, Share and Care with Sandy Chernoff is always hosted by Sandy, as you see here today. I host Conversation for Humanity on Wednesday, and on Thursday, which is today, Carla Fedigan hosts Humanity Happy Hour, and she'll be here shortly. And as you jump on, whether it be on our Facebook business page or LinkedIn Live or on our YouTube channel, please feel free to comment, ask any questions, concerns, bring us some show topic ideas. We would love to have an engaging conversation with you. And let us know where also you're watching from, whether it be in the United States or worldwide. We would love to have that great and engaging conversation with you. And just to let you know, the live link is already in all the platforms. So if you guys want to be able to join us live, you will see the Join Us Live link inside those platforms. So just click that link. We can have up to 10 people on at a time. So if you'd like to be able to be on the conversation, just let us know and we'll get you in and everything like that. So, Miss Sandy, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Oh, hi, Carla. Nice to see you.
Hello, Carla.
As it's your day today, it's good you're here.
I was taking care of the dog. What can I say?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It's something you have to do.
I even said this just a second ago, Miss Carla. I said we need to be able to do a live stream with our lazy coworkers and bring them to work. I think that'd be a great thing.
I can show you my lazy coworker. He went to the vet today. Let's see if I can show you. Here he is.
Oh,
Cosmo! He's cute.
He made his debut. He went to the vet today and got a bath, and he got his teeth done, and got his nails trimmed, and
cool.
He had a spa day.
We used to do that in the dental school, Carla.
I know.
Dogs in to get their teeth.
Oh, well, he didn't do the deep cleaning. They brushed his teeth.
Okay, no, but we used to, like scale stuff off and whatever. So we what we do, they would put them out.
Yeah.
They wouldn't bite us and stuff like that. And then, we would do it, and it was fun. It was something different to do.
Well, I don't brush his teeth. I tried to do it when we first got him about 3 years ago, and I ended up getting bit. So I take him to the vet.
My daughter does it. She actually brushes Apple's teeth, and Apple lets her. It's kind of interesting.
I know. I haven't been bold enough to try it. I guess I have PTSD. I still remember being bit by my dog,
Fair enough.
Probably let me do it now. So.
She doesn't. Some of her friends can't believe that she does it, Carla, because most people don't. But she does. Apple sort of likes it. So
I might try it. Yeah, I might try it.
Kind of interesting.
When we first got him, I thought I'd put that little finger thing on, and you could just, brush his teeth. And
oh, nice.
It didn't fit on my finger, so I went to go switch to the toothbrush. And when I switched to the toothbrush, he went and grabbed him for that little piece of plastic. And I thought, oh my God, he's going to chew it up. He's having a severed intestine or a severed stomach or esophagus or whatever. So I was trying to get it out of his mouth, and he had other ideas. And he ended up biting me right here. And I mean, my whole side of my face swelled up. I looked like somebody had hit me. But so I just do not brush his teeth.
No, fair enough.
No.
Makes sense.
Maybe I'll try it with water and see how that goes. And then then I'll put some toothpaste on it. So
yeah, Lisa uses a little toothpaste, but of course her dog is this big.
Yeah, her dog's a little palm dog. Yeah. And I don't like nails either because he's too,
No, Lisa doesn't do that either. She takes him to the vet. It takes her to the vet to have that done.
Yeah. Well, I get the Dremel because they round them better and they don't scratch.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they've got the equipment and whatever. So they can sedate them if they need to, whatever. So Lisa doesn't do that either. But she does brush her teeth every day. She does it every day.
Wow. How often are you supposed to do it? Probably every day. And I'm a bad dog mom.
I guess it depends what she's eaten, but by and large, she does it every day. She does it in the like after dinner. She does her teeth, and the reason I know that's when she does it is because when she comes here for dinner, she brings Apple with her, and then after the meal's over, before she goes home, she takes her and brushes her teeth. I think she does it in front of me because she thinks, as a hygienist, it would be good for me to see that she's doing this. But anyway, well, when the kids were small, I used to brush their teeth because, they don't have the coordination to do it properly. And when I would go to Toronto when the boys were still really small, I used to brush their teeth too. And what I would do, Carla, and I used to tell mothers to do this, sit down on the floor and put the kid's head in your lap. Just like sort of like it being in a dental chair.
Yeah, right.
You try and do it with them standing up. It's very hard to see, and they move around and all that kind of stuff. So I would just tell the boys, I'd sit down on the floor in their room, and I'd tell them, okay, lie down, put your head in my lap, and I'm going to brush your teeth. And here, you can hold the mirror so you can watch what I'm doing. And they loved it. I mean, they just thought it was so cool. They looked forward to me coming and doing it for them.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
I mean, they're old enough to do it themselves now, but when they were little, that's what I used to do. I used to do it with my kids too, because kids don't have the dexterity until they're about, 6 or 7 or 8 to actually be able to do a good job.
Yeah. I had a hygienist tell me once, and I think about this every time I brush my teeth, you must be left-handed. And I said, how do you know? She says, because your teeth are cleaner on the right side.
That's right. Because a left-handed person, it's easier to clean on the right side, and a right-handed person, it's easier to clean on the left side. So it's quite obvious.
Yeah. So
it's harder to twist your hand around and do what you have to do when it's on the opposite side. So
yeah, for sure.
Something you get used to, but initially it's kind of hard. But no, I used to help patients all the time and explain to them, how to do it and
break it up into sections and.
Well, and also, I tell people you have to put your toothbrush at the gum line because gum is not attached to the tooth at the gum line and plaque gets underneath there. So you have to angle your toothbrush so it's actually underneath the tissue at the gum line because otherwise you'll end up with gingivitis. And a lot of bleeding and, so on and so forth. And I also used to tell people, your toothbrush doesn't get in between your teeth, so you have to floss because otherwise you're leaving all kinds of stuff in between. And of course, that's where most people get cavities.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not
store a whole nother meal between some people's teeth.
Exactly. Unbelievable. But,
so Miss Carla, I believe the countdown is on to Live to Lead, is it not?
Yes, it is. 1 week to go. I'm excited.
cool.
I just saw a video that he did one where I think it was on a Throwback Thursday that I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but they had Tyler Perry there.
They had what?
Tyler Perry.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He lives in Atlanta.
So,
we'll have to see.
I've been hearing the lineup looks really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm not too thrilled about having to be there at 6 a.m, but John, you're worth it.
Well, I know it's going to be on a Friday, but the thing about that is they're even going to have a live to lead here in Lakeland, and it's going to be at one of our community members' places. Um, I forget where it's at in downtown Lakeland, but they're going to have, of course, the start of it for mid morning and all that, and then they're going to have a VIP in the afternoon.
Yeah, they're doing a virtual part too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He's really good. I've been to 2 of his workshops because he's been to Vancouver a couple of times, and so
Yeah.
I've seen him more than once live, and he is amazing. First of all,
This is the third one.
he's so personable. You know, he's just a very outgoing person, and so that comes across on the stage as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's like one of these people that you would just sit down and talk to at the kitchen table. You know.
Exactly. He's very easy to speak. To talk to. And that's,
well, I love the ends of his books. He says, he says, "My name is John, and I'm your friend."
Yep.
I thought that was pretty cool. That kind of, breaks it down. He's just like everybody else. So I'm really excited about it.
And the most amazing thing about him too, as well, he actually started his journey in the church. He was a pastor.
Yep.
And that's how he got started into that. And it just kind of weaved its way into where he's doing right now because, again, everything's interconnected. And
I think the story goes the first sermon he did had 3 people.
Yeah. But I love the story, though, when he was actually, I think, at his second church that he ever was pastor at. And I think this came up about the book, The 360-Degree Leader, because he mentioned in the 21 Different Blows of Leadership that he was wondering who was the actual person who actually had the most pull, most influence, and all that kind of thing. And come to find out, it wasn't necessarily him. It was freaking the janitor of all people in that church who's been there forever.
Yeah. Yeah,
and that tells you about leadership right there.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy. I'm hoping I get to meet him.
He is an awesome guy. And
if you meet him, this is what you do. Hey, say, Mr. Maxwell, we would like for you to speak at our organization. We would like for you to do that. Can you do that? And I'll bet you would say, "Oh, sure. I think you would go for it."
Yeah, well, so we'll see. We'll see.
And who's the guy who's always usually with him? Can't think of his name. The one who usually does his Maxwell minutes with him.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I know he's going to be there, but
yeah. Let me see. Oh, what's his name? He's on. You're right. He's on the minutes with Matthew.
Yeah, he's a good guy too.
Yeah,
he is. My name just forgets me. I don't know who he is. I can see and because he's got a real short haircut.
Yeah.
He's the president and CEO of the John C. Maxwell Group, I believe.
Yeah. I'm looking it up. Keep talking. I'm not finding it, so. Isn't that always what it is?
Yeah.
I bet you find his picture, you'll know who he is.
I wanted to find my book. And I told you that when I went and I bought his book and he signed it.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
Which book is that?
Sandy, thanks for being an inspiration. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. That's what it said.
Oh,
how nice.
That's a good one.
Life's greatest lessons are gained from our losses.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's, he's such a nice guy. When he saw that I bought his book, I said to him, I said, would you mind signing it? No, give it to me. I'll sign it for you. You know.
Well, I'm not finding it.
So this was sort of the outline from that thing, the John Maxwell team. When you're losing, everything hurts.
That's true too.
How true. How true.
The quality that distinguishes a successful person from one who is otherwise like him is the capacity to manage disappointment and loss. So this is all from the John Maxwell team.
I'm sure I'll run across it as soon as our live is over with. You know, that's always the way it is. Huh?
No worries, no worries. So what's on tap today, Miss Carla?
Well, we were talking earlier in the week about guilt and shame, and there seems to be a uprising more so than usual in the workplace these days, without going into that conversation. But I was looking at a very interesting article about guilt and shame, and I know that we usually think about the boss that kind of guilts us into things. I remember saying once that my mom, you know, it even goes into our everyday life. My mom would send us on so many guilt trips we didn't have enough outfits for them, you know. But people think of two things. They think of in work, they think of the bullying, and they think of a boss that's bullying the employees. And then they also think about toxic work culture and people that are destined to, it's their life mission to make your life miserable at work. And but it really kind of goes into a lot of different areas of our life, and some of the things they were talking about was, you know, the guilt and shame and a whole lot of other feelings are all interconnected, and how you can think about all the different ways that you interact with people at work. And I realized that I had kind of clued into some of these without even thinking about it in the last workplace that I worked at. For example, everyone has a work buddy, you know, somebody that they really connect with at work and they get along great with them. And yeah, you might get along with the whole team as a whole, but you get along maybe with this one person better than everybody else. And I had one of those people when at my last job that I had, my nursing job, I guess I'd say. And she's now moved on to Delaware. But, you know, we would do things outside of work together, but we weren't like this at work. What we would do is, you know, we enjoyed our friendship. We thought a lot alike. We, you know, helped each other out, and we helped out other people too. But we always made it a point, say, for example, if we were going out to lunch, that we wouldn't just say the two of us are going. We would invite everybody else. And granted, there's some people that you know will not accept your invitation to go out to lunch. That's fine. But at least you made the offer and you didn't like go arm in arm out the door like, hey, we're going and you're not invited. You know, that to me, that doesn't do anything to foster a good environment in the workplace. They also talked about sometimes you would, you know, work your tail off on a project and then have your project turned down. And then you feel bad about it. And you say, well, I'm not, you know, it's easier to say, well, you know, I wasn't really good at it anyway, and put your own self down because you don't want to hear it from somebody else. They also talked about
Hi, Lisa.
Hi. talked about not putting down people at work and shaming them and saying, you know, like, let's just say somebody comes up with an idea and they voice their idea at a meeting, and maybe somebody in management goes, well, I don't know where you came up with that idea. That's never going to work. And about how that doesn't do anything to foster the work on the team. You could say, hey, that's a great idea. Let's take it a little bit farther. You know, what would happen if we took action on that? What would happen with that? And then somebody may say, well, maybe if we start with that and add this to it, it would make it even better. And so you're really recognizing people for their attempts to offer a solution, for example, to a problem, but you're not putting them down because you might think that their idea is stupid. So, you know, I'm sure you all can think of situations yourself and better ways to handle it. But I think that comes along with emotional maturity.
Or it does. And I agree with you, Carla, because the more that we are aware of where we sit in, whether it be in a community setting, whether it be a workplace setting, whatever that might be, if we allow ourselves the freedom to express our humanity in our own unique way, even from a place of leadership, not only does guilt and shame literally can go fall by the wayside, that really can turn into something so positive that it truly fosters that awareness and that camaraderie. It's just like what Sandy has said many, many times. Why do you want to have the revolving door where someone is always new at that store or that restaurant? You always see someone different. That's not helping, because I kind of like Sandy, but you know, she's now replaced with Margarita, and I don't know who Margarita is. Hello, Margarita. I don't know who you are. And see, we create bonds not only with each other at work, we create bonds with those people who come into our places of business, establish relationships, and that goes a long way, because when you have service to others, no matter where you are in life or in business, you really have that deep-rooted kind of mindset, and you can be able to say, hey, you know what? We are willing to do the things that makes us interconnected to one another. It's about creating that nice environment. And I will go back to, like I said, our great quote: create better environments to create better results. It's just that simple. And then once we do that, not only can we listen better, learn better, we also can lead to as well. And I truly believe in that.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Shara.
Hi. What's going on?
Well, I think that when we talk about emotional maturity, it's not pitting one person against the other. You know, it's like, let's just say I work with a patient and I'm leading them up to the front desk to get checked out. And I would say, you know, hey, Heather's going to be with you in a second. She's going to help you set up your next appointment. You're in great hands with her. If you have any other questions, feel free to let me know. She can come get me, but she's going to take good care of you. And irregardless of maybe anything that you know, maybe there's some issues that have gone on behind the scenes, I'm never going to present that in front of people. They need to know that an organization has a well-oiled machine, and there's no room for shame and guilt. No, whatsoever.
And it really takes everyone in the environment to make it a better environment. So people, managers, coworkers shouldn't be talking about other people to others. It really just brings the morale down. It's just detrimental to the relationship or your image to to others, because people know if you're talking to them about someone else, they're probably talking to someone else about you.
Yeah, what are they saying about you? Yeah.
Exactly.
So you know right away when someone is bad mouthing another person, that they're probably bad mouthing you for some reason,
Yeah.
for whatever reason. So
Or if they're telling you something personal about somebody else, how are you ever going to be have any confidence in them that they would keep a secret about what's going on in your life?
exactly.
Let's just say, for example, you came into work and you're really stressed out. You might be going through a divorce or a separation or something, and you want to talk to your boss and tell him, hey, this is what's going on. I might seem a little off or whatever. And then you later on hear your boss talking about somebody else's life problems. It makes you wonder, well, I wonder how many people know about my impending divorce. Who have they talked to about? And even worse, have somebody come up to you and say, oh, I hear you're getting a divorce. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, to heck with the sympathy. Who in the hell let the cat out of the bag? And I can't trust that person anymore.
Right.
Not good.
No,
Not
it's
good.
not.
Not good at all.
Not good at all.
Gossiping is just nothing that should be happening at work. I'm sorry. It's just
No.
it's not an appropriate work activity. Because you're right, if somebody's telling you something about someone else, surely they're going to be telling something about you to somebody. It's just you can't do that. It's just very inappropriate behavior at work.
Which just comes from maturity,
And then when you have leaders that actually do it, and they may be the biggest offenders, that is even worse, because it just says to the employee, to the team, you can't trust those people, and it really creates problems with the team. Someone's leader says, "Oh, he's lazy. So and so's lazy," or whatever. It gets right back to that person, and it just it creates problems, and so it's not a good situation. And that should be part of, we talked yesterday a little bit about expectations. That should be in the expectations for leaders, right? For everyone really, but especially for leaders, because they are supposed to be leading by example, and they are representing the organization, and they're leaders of the culture too. So, it's bad news, and it shouldn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, this isn't on the lines of shame or guilt, but I've been in situations where I've had people that I do things with outside of work come to me and say, hey, I had a meeting with management the other day, and they proceeded to say that they didn't think that we liked each other. And I said, what are you talking about? We do stuff outside of work together, trying to pit people against one another. And
Right.
I just don't feel like that there's a place for that.
No, there isn't.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, I want to pick up on what Lisa was just saying there about leadership, about being a part of the organization and being the face of the organization. Ladies and gentlemen, they are basically standing upon their character, their morals, their ethics, and everything. So if they are going, and I want to get this from everybody, and I'm going to pose this question: should leaders give out guilt and give out shame to an organization to achieve the goals that need to be met from a organizational structure?
That doesn't work, Chris.
No.
No.
One answer for you. No.
Doesn't work. Bad approach.
How motivating is that?
Yeah,
It's not
exactly.
motivating at all. It's childish.
It's not. And I
I
think
when a manager or a leader has shamed someone or finger pointed and blamed or even yelled at them, the next time that person makes a mistake, because people do make mistakes, the next time they make a mistake, they're going to cover it up. And then when things aren't fixed because there's been a mistake, bad even worse things can happen. So it's really important that we are encouraging, that we are supportive, that we sit down and talk to the person about what happened and see if we can't come up with together some solutions to whatever the outcome is. And also to consider the next time you're faced with that kind of scenario or situation or something similar, what else do you think you could do so you don't end up with the outcome we have now? Mm-hmm. And when you sit down and talk to them in a nice way, privately, like in your office or in their office or somewhere where people aren't coming in and out and nobody else can hear your conversation, then you can come to a solution and you can say to the person, well, you go ahead and take care of this now, and if you run into any snags or it's not working out, you come back to me and I'll help you. And so if you talk to them like that, the next time they have a problem, they're not going to be afraid to come to you. Mm-hmm. Because you were supportive, you were encouraging, you helped them. And it's just a matter of how people deal with these kinds of things. People who shame and finger point and blame and all this, I'm sorry. It does not make for a good relationship. And it makes other people uncomfortable, because then everybody else is walking around on eggshells wondering when it's going to be their turn to be shamed or whatever. So not a good approach, really not a good approach, because that's what happened with that guy that I worked with. I mean, everybody was always walking around on eggshells because they didn't know when he was going to yell at them. So
that does not make me want to go to work.
No, absolutely not, Carla. I mean, that's the reason I left.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not a comfortable place to be. I mean, it was never like that when my brother and his partner were running the practice, or when my dad and my brother and my dad's partner were running the practice. It was never like that. We never, ever were shamed and yelled at, and certainly not in front of anybody else. If there was a discussion to be had, it was either held in the staff room when everybody else was working, or it was held in the private office so that it was private. It was between you and the boss and whatever, and you discussed it. But, this other sort of behavior, I'm sorry, it's just wrong, it's inappropriate, and it just makes everybody uncomfortable. And when everyone's walking around on eggshells, chances are more mistakes are going to be made because they're so anxious and uptight about everything. So, you're causing more problems. That's what you're doing. So you don't want to behave in that way. It's just not appropriate, especially not for a leader, but even for colleagues. Don't do that to your colleagues.
And also, don't throw your colleagues under the bus and blame them for what you've done.
Exactly. Because that's not being accountable. We have to be accountable. We have to take responsibility for what we do. And if you do that, then everything's cool. Right. It really is. And there's nothing wrong with realizing you made a mistake. Mistakes are opportunities to learn, but only if they're handled properly. No point in just dwelling on the mess you made. You've got to step back and do some problem solving.
Yeah,
exactly.
And fix it. But it's just a matter of letting people understand that, again, everybody makes mistakes. Very few human beings are perfect. I don't actually know any. So just,
No, I don't mean perfect.
Yeah. So people make mistakes. Even the boss makes mistakes. Even the manager makes mistakes. And when they admit it and say, hey guys, that was my mistake, so I'm going to take care of it. Don't you worry about it. Here's what I'm going to do. And so when they actually admit their mistakes, then it won't be so uncomfortable when you make a mistake, because we're all human. We all make mistakes. It's just how life is. But it's a matter of what are you doing about it? And the more positive you are, the more mindset you have about problem solving and approaching it. It's a challenge. It's, we got to fix this. Okay, so let's step back and think what we can do, or let's get some help from somebody who's had more experience with this kind of situation. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter, but it needs to get resolved, and you need to own it because you caused it. Mm-hmm. So, it's just a matter of how does this work? And if everybody owns their mistakes and everybody is accountable, then we got a much better situation. because
Exactly.
you don't want to be blaming other people for something you did. I'm sorry. Wrong, wrong, and wrong.
Well, it just shows your immaturity
Well, it also shows
and your
you,
lack of being humble to say, hey, I was the one that made the mistake.
yeah, I did this. I'm going to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And when people see that, especially when the boss does it, like Sandy was saying, when people are humble and admit their mistakes, they take accountability, then it gets more comfortable for others too. And it's when it becomes about solving the problem, it's not really looked at as a mistake. It's looked at as a problem that we have to now solve differently or try to solve differently.
Yeah.
So when the focus is put on the problem or the issue, it takes it away from the people.
Yeah.
And it makes a much better environment that way.
For sure. But again, I mean, it just depends on how things are handled. And when you have a manager who finger points and blames and yells at people when they screw up, then you're going to have everybody walking around on eggshells because they're wondering when it'll be their turn to, be on the receiving end of this horrible behavior. It's just not a way to deal with people. It's just really not. People make mistakes. I'm sorry. It just is how it is. So it's a matter of how are you going to deal with it? Don't finger point and blame. Sit down with them and together figure out how we're going to fix this outcome. That's really what you have to do. And it needs to be done privately, not in front of everybody else and, so on and so forth. And it's just a matter of this is the piece, Chris. It's human. You've got to be humane with everybody else. And if you're not, it makes everybody uncomfortable. Just, and the whole team is going to be uncomfortable because they're wondering when they're going to be shamed.
Well, a lot of people think, okay, here I am. I got both feet in this issue. Now what do I do? Other than, not everyone is in that situation, but what other options do they have other than just walking with their feet and saying enough is enough and finding another job or doing something else with their life?
Well, but some people get stuck, Carla, because when they have bills to pay and whatever, and they don't see another job, looming in front of them soon, they can't just walk away. So, if they can find something else, and then they can leave. But if they don't have anything else and they've got bills to pay, and they got to put food on the table and pay their rent and keep up their car and everything else that they need to do, then they just can't walk away.
Yeah.
And so they've got to live with it until they can find something better.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing wrong with looking around. But
I know a year ago when there were 8 million women that left the workforce because of COVID.
Yeah.
Because their kids were home and they needed supervision for their kids. And so they had to make a choice between a job and work. And for a lot of people, they were not given an option to work from home, or they weren't in a situation where they could do their job. They had a hands-on job, whatever. And sadly, a lot of people were told, well, if you can't come in, you're not going to have a job. So they were just about shamed or guilted out of their job. They had to throw up their hands. They didn't have an option.
Well, I wouldn't say that they were shamed. I mean, I don't know about everyone, but I know that the company I worked with in production, we had people that wanted time off, and we couldn't really give them time off. We needed everyone to meet production, and so there was no option to work from home.
Yeah.
The option we tried to provide is, swapping. So like if you were on first shift and someone wanted to swap from second to first, they could do that, but a lot of them just didn't want that option. And so they chose to stay home. And so again, we had 3 shifts so they could, if they could find someone to switch with, then we offered that. We did provide some people with leaves of absences, a temporary leave of absence, but it could only last for so long. And so, some companies, depending on the position, there is no option because they need people to work. So what do you do?
Yeah. What do you do?
Yeah.
Well, what do you do if you're in a work position where you're constantly going into work on eggshells? walking on eggshells, wondering, are you going to be the next one to get chewed out or shamed or criticized in front of other people? And, Sandy was fortunate enough to be able to walk with her feet and say, enough of this.
Well, and you know what? Very shortly after that, fortunately, I took over a job that was a mat leave. And although I had already started my business and I was working on this on the side, I was working in an office a couple days a week that was a mat leave. And that way, I still had regular money coming in.
Mm-hmm.
As my business started to grow, eventually I quit practicing. But, the type of work that you and I did, Carla, you can't do from home because, you got to be in the hospital or you got to be in the dental office. You're working on people. You can't do that at home.
Yeah.
So those kind of jobs are not possible in terms of, people working from home. If you have an office job and you're, doing stuff on the computer or you're doing phone calls and, different things like that, a lot of paperwork, that can be done at home. That's not an issue. But when you're actually directly working on your clients or patients or whatever, it's not, you can't do it from home. It doesn't work. So
telemedicine only goes so far.
Yeah. But when you have a boss who is just so absolutely horrible, and he was just disgusting. And the sad thing was his partner was the opposite. We called his partner the ostrich because he hated confrontation. So, basically his head was in the sand all the time because he just didn't, want to get involved in any of this stuff. And Patrick was always the one who was screaming at everybody and, so on and so forth. And I don't know how the two of them got together because they were like night and day. But, they were partners in the practice. And it was just, it was not an enjoyable experience. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
And I'd always enjoyed the people that I had worked with until this experience. And I told you that I started getting patients calling me at home. I need to get my teeth cleaned and you weren't there. Where are you? I said, I'm at home. What do you mean you're at home? And I said, well, I can't really talk about it, but I'm not terribly comfortable in the situation that's going on at the office now. And then the other thing was a lot of the patients started to leave. And my brother had moved his practice downtown. He was practicing with one of his classmates. And of course, a lot of the patients in the office had been his patients for 25, 30 years. And so they would phone the receptionist and want to know where Dave was. So then this asshole wanted to sue my brother. And he went to a lawyer, and the lawyer told him, he said, you don't have a case. You cannot make people stay with you if they don't want to. And seems how they were Dr. Waterman's patient for 25, 30 years, and they're not happy with what you're doing. So they're going back to their former dentist. And you don't have a case. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you do not have a non-compete case here.
No. I mean, yes, they bought the practice, but they weren't taking care of the patients the way they were used to being taken care of. And so they didn't want to stay in the practice. So he was ruining everything. I mean, absolutely everything.
Yeah, well, they found him. He didn't go out and solicit him, like give him a phone message. Hey, I'm a previous dentist and I moved over to here, so come on over. He wasn't doing that. People were finding him.
Well, the only patients that he told he was leaving were patients that at the time when he left, he was actually working on. He was actually doing work for. But nobody else, he didn't tell anybody else. He just, left. And that's why, when they weren't happy with Patrick and how he was treating his staff and how he was even treating the patients, then, they wanted to go back to Dave. And so they would phone the receptionist and ask where he was. And that made Patrick really mad. But, he wasn't doing anything to keep the patients. So he was pushing them away.
Or the employees. And so that's a prime example of how having a bad environment creates a situation where people want to leave.
Yeah. I mean, most people, not everybody, but most people who go to the dentist are nervous and anxious. It's just a lot of people are, because it depends what kind of experiences you had as a kid. And a lot of people, I told you this before, they look at the dentist and they go, yeah, we go to the dentist, he hurts us and we pay. Like that's their fear of going to the dentist. And so they're generally pretty anxious. So the only way to deflect that and to make them comfortable is to gain their trust and build rapport. And that's why I did a lot of the things that I did. And my brother was good at it, and my dad was good at it, and my brother's partner, Arnie, was good at it. So that patients felt comfortable and felt that we had their best interests at heart. And whenever they were going to do some work for them, they would always sit down with them and show them, if we do this, it'll cost you this, and this is what it'll look like, compared to what your tooth looks like now, and they would show pictures to the patients so that they had a clear idea and they could then make an informed decision on how they wanted to move forward. But what was really funny is after they would have that meeting with the dentist, the next time they saw me or one of the assistants or even the receptionist to go, well, if you were me, what would you do? So I'd say, well, what are you leaning towards? And then I'd show them, well, I've got a gold crown over here. And, so it was just a matter of helping them to make the decision by reassuring them that the things they'd been told were true. And it just depends what you think will look best in your mouth or what you want to live with. I mean, if you want a gold crown, or do you want a porcelain fused to gold, which will just look like your tooth, like what would you prefer to have? I mean, you don't want a gold crown on your front tooth, but, on a molar tooth, it's not so bad because unless you're walking around going like this all the time, nobody can see it. So it's just a matter of helping them to make the decision. And I had no trouble, listening to them and then giving them some suggestions on my own experience in terms of why I had chosen what I did. And, it's just how you're dealing with people. I mean, in the end, that's really what it is. And if you deal with people in a respectful, honest way, then you're going to have much more success with them. But when when you're running rampages all the time, which is what Patrick was doing in the office, it doesn't make the patients comfortable. It doesn't make the staff comfortable. And that's the reason why so many patients started leaving. It wasn't just the staff, Lisa, it was the patients.
And then when they leave, it's like a vicious cycle. When they leave, the tension gets higher and more leave, and the tension gets higher, and it's just a vicious cycle. Chris, pull up that comment that we had from somebody that was watching online.
That was great.
Interesting comments about gossip. If you get time to, okay. No, I want to see the other one, the first one. There. I understand your comments about negative gossiping, but sometimes it might be about how the workplace shows up to them.
That comes from Graham.
Yeah. Well, to me, that means I think we've talked about this before. If everyone's into the gossip and the negativity and things like that, and you're like thinking you don't like the workplace, take a look at yourself in the mirror and see what you're adding to it. Are you adding to the negative culture of the workplace?
Right.
Are you adding to the gossip? Are you adding to the negativity? It's really easy to get on the negativity bus. And it's really hard to be positive because you could be the only positive person in the room. And then a lot of other people be negative. And yeah, you want to change that negative to a positive for people. But some people you're not going to be able to change.
Right.
And you have to decide you can only take care of yourself and be responsible for what you bring to the workplace. And if it's in it, better be positivity and not negativity and gossip, because I mean that shows your maturity and your emotional maturity. You just don't do it,
Yeah.
It's not appropriate. It's just
so let's go to Sarah. She had some issues with the computer, but I want to get her into the conversation. From a place of leadership, Sarah, should leadership shame and guilt trip us to do the things that we should do in an organization to create the outcomes that they are so seeking? Is that a good thing to do, or is that a bad thing? Because we right now we've been all saying, no, that's a bad thing. That's no. Well, what's your thoughts on that?
Sorry, could you rephrase the question for me? Because I couldn't really hear, I could only hear some of it. Could you repeat it for me?
The question is right now, from a place of leadership, should we guilt trip or shame people to get the outcomes that they're looking for in the organizational setting?
Sorry, the sound is really poor this end. I think you're asking, from a point of leadership, should there be more done, did you say, in a controlled setting?
Should we be controlling people through shame and guilt?
Comments or in the chat.
Yeah, that's what Chris is saying. Should we be controlling people through
definitely
shame?
not.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, definitely not. I don't think that there's anything productive to come from that. And, you know, just listening to Carla earlier with her previous comment, it reminded me of a time when I worked somewhere, when I, you know, prior experience, when I worked with a client. And I went to work in their setting, and I found that in doing so, the environment was quite negative, you know, and there were some very disgruntled people, you know, lots of sort of politics and things of that nature. And the work that I was trying to do was quite creative. And I found that over a period of about 4 months, it was like the negativity was more, I found, was very disruptive to my thought process. And I had to very much sort of vacate, you know, that environment to be one that was more conducive, you know, to me, you know, as a person, so I could fulfill my part of the contract. But it certainly doesn't. I don't feel that you can get anywhere with controlling people, you know, on that kind of level. And I think it needs to be a desire and an innate experience where everyone wants to come together under a common cause to kind of make things better, you know, and improve things within the workplace. And I think that you'll find that that's probably a more productive way to be. And by doing so, you sort of create sort of better working relationships, and I think, which is also a help in terms of retention. Excuse my grandson.
Got something going on in the background there.
Yeah. It's my grandson. I apologize.
Little boys are never quiet, sorry.
Never.
I wanted to mention too, I think we're talking about, oops, sorry.
Go ahead, Lisa.
I didn't know if Sarah was saying something. So anyways, I was saying that I just wanted to mention that I see people doing this shame and guilt thing with kids. And so some people might think it's a motivator to get people to do things. I'm not really sure why. And I know they don't mean it the way that it comes out. But for instance, you have a 5-year-old who doesn't want to ride a bike. They have no interest in it whatsoever. And you can see people trying to shame them, you know, all other 5-year-olds, you know, just other people do it. Why not you? And it's like, why are you doing that? So I don't know if it's just something in the way that people think that will help motivate kids. I don't really understand why they think that, but I think somewhere along the line, someone has learned that works. So yeah, so I think it's not just in the workplace, right? It's in the community at large. And so I think we have to change the mindset of people. You know, everyone has different interests. Not everyone wants to ride a bike or wants to do certain things, and trying to shame them or guilt them them into doing it is not going to motivate them to doing something. So I think it stems from, again, how we raise our kids and how certain people are raised may contribute to why they bring this into the workplace.
Mm-hmm. So from an HR perspective, how would you address a situation where you have a manager or even employees that are guilting and shaming other people?
So I think it starts from expectations. It starts from letting managers and leaders know this is not how we operate. So it would be a conversation with that leader. If it didn't change, it could be, it could be disciplinary at that point if it doesn't change. Again, I think we have to roll out expectations to our people so they know what is expected, and, helping them understand what the culture is. And then if they go outside of what that culture is, a discussion needs to happen. They need to find out why, what happened. And then if it continues, then take it to the next level if necessary. I mean, obviously, the worst thing we want to do is discipline. The last thing we want to do is discipline people. But if you've talked to them and you've given them the tools to be successful, and they continue to operate outside of what those expectations are, then you have to take it to the next level. And you keep doing it until they fall in line, right? And that sounds harsh, falling in line, but I mean, if you have your expectations set out and people are not falling in line with those expectations, and it's causing issues in the workplace, then you have a bigger problem. And so those need to be addressed before they become a problem at large. But it's just something that you have to do if things don't change.
And they need to know that. I mean, if you explain that to them, then
right.
They've got to comply, or you say goodbye.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What other situations could you all think of outside of the workplace where people have shamed people or guilted them, tried to instill guilt in somebody to sway their opinion on something or sway their way of doing things?
I think there's a lot of examples. I can think back to when my son was in kindergarten. My son was he was a bit of a talker, and so I would let the teachers know he likes to chat. He gets a little chatty sometimes. Usually if he knows that, you're going to talk to his mom if he doesn't straighten around, or his dad or whatever. He's a pleaser, so he likes to please. He knows what's expected, and so just give him a little nudge, like, if you don't straighten up, I'll have to call your mom, that kind of a thing.
Right.
And so his teacher, which I believe that she probably was a little burnt out of being a teacher, and she proceeded to pick up the phone, call me, and hand the phone to him in the middle of class. And the poor kid, well, she said, well, I'm going to call your mom. And, I'm thinking, she called me up, and I'm thinking he's in the hallway, not in the middle of the classroom. And I'm just talking to him nicely, I'm just saying, hey, what's going on? And he just starts crying. He's, because he's a pleaser. And like I said, I didn't realize he was in the middle of the classroom, and I was so upset. Yeah, exactly. And so I think it was just the stress of, mom's got to be called, that upset him. And so I ended up going and complaining about the teacher doing that and I talked to the teacher about it myself. I said, I did tell you to call me, but calling me in front of all of his peers was not a good thing to do. I mean, how would you like to be in the middle of all of your peers and have, you stand there and you're being talked to about your behavior?
Yeah.
It's just it's not appropriate. It was not and so I think in regards, that's a form of shaming, and it just was very inappropriate. And I think that that stuff happens. Some teachers are overwhelmed by the number of students they have at times, but this teacher, I think, was just burnt out of being a teacher. She had, her kids were graduating in high school, and she'd been a teacher for a very long time. Either that or she just didn't like little kids, but I'm not sure which one. But I mean, the reason why I say that, because that was not the only incident I had with her. She was just, she didn't find things funny, the things that little kids do. She didn't find them funny, and she was very appalled by them. And it amazed me that she was teaching kindergartners because she had zero patience.
Very
Zero
strict.
patience.
Yeah.
Very, very strict. As a matter of fact, for his birthday, I brought in cupcakes, and you know how excited they are when you're bringing in something for the class. Well, we came in early before class started, before the bus was let out, because I had to go to work and whatnot. And so the rule was you had to stay like at this point. You couldn't go beyond that into the classrooms. Well, he's excited, and he is running ahead of me. And I can hear her yelling at him, "What are you doing in here? You're not supposed to be in here." And I'm just like, "Are you kidding me right now?" And I walked in right behind him, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't know you were here." And I'm like, "Yeah, I see."
Hi. That's who. Yeah.
I mean, that's not how you talk to little kids. I mean, you find out, why are you here? What's going on? Do you need help? Do you know there's, you know what I mean? The way she talked to him, I was like, wow, I was floored. I didn't know what, I was like, how can you talk to kids this way? And you're a
I love
kindergarten
what
teacher.
Shara just said, that leadership requires patience. Here we
does.
are, the teacher developing the leaders of tomorrow, and we're trying to get them to conform with absolutely no patience whatsoever. They're 5 years old.
And we're treating them with disrespect and shame. I mean, how horrifying. It really, you might expect patience from a high school teacher, but not a kindergarten teacher.
Disgusting story. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting that a kindergarten teacher, would be treating 5-year-olds in that way. She shouldn't be a kindergarten teacher. I'm sorry. Like you have little kids, you have to have patience. I mean, there's just no way around it. They're going to push and push and push because that's what they do. So, in certain situations, you push back a little bit. But otherwise, if it's not serious, leave it alone, like it's not the end of the world. It's just, I mean, I told you guys that when my son was little, he pushed the envelope all the time. He was always pushing the envelope. And his older son does exactly the same thing. So it's just a matter of, you got to deal with it. And Gail and I sat down and we figured out what would matter to Mark. So when he pushed the envelope and did things he wasn't supposed to do, and he would do it just to see what I would do, then, you've got to have a consequence that matters to the kid. And I told you, Mark phoned me when Jack turned into him. He goes, "Oh, I need your help. Jack's turned into me." So of course I laughed hysterically. Because, poor Kim, but you're getting exactly what you deserve. Well, what do we do? And I said, you need to sit down and figure out what consequences matter to Jack. And the two of you have to be consistent. And when he pushes the envelope and does stuff he's not supposed to do, and he knows darn well because he's smart that he's not supposed to do it, then you have to exercise those consequences so that he realizes that, he's not going to get away with this stuff. And I told you, he tried it on me because I figured I wouldn't know. And I told Mark after I dealt with Jack, I said, you can't blame him for trying because he figured I wouldn't know. But sadly, because I raised his father, I knew exactly what was going on. So it's a matter of, what are you doing? You have to deal with the kids, and you want to keep them safe, and you also want them to understand that there are boundaries. And kids that have never been taught by their parents that there are boundaries are uncontrollable. They're absolutely absolutely uncontrollable. Kids need to know that there are boundaries. There are certain things that you can do. I mean, I told you when Jack and I would go to the park, he'd run away, but I could catch him. So it just turned into a game. But my daughter-in-law's parents can't catch him, so they never would take him to the park because if he ran away, they just couldn't get him. So, it's just a matter of how are you dealing with it? I mean, for Jack and me, it just turned into a game. It was fine. But for Mindy and Stephen, because they're very overweight and they have bad hips and bad knees, and so they can't run after him. So, I mean, you can't put yourself or him in a dangerous situation because they didn't want anything to happen to him. Literally, he'd look at me and then he'd start running.
Yeah.
They go, fine, Jack, I'm going to catch you. And I would. And I'd catch him and throw him up in the air. And we'd laugh and laugh. And it was just fun. But it's a matter of what are you doing with these kids? And they need to know that there are boundaries and you have to set those boundaries so that they understand. Right. And if they cross the boundary, there's a punishment. And that matters. I mean, Mark doesn't care about, getting a spanking. He would even come to me, pull down his pants and go, you want to spank me? Because he didn't care. My daughter, all you needed to do was threaten Lisa with a spanking. And that was enough.
Right.
That's all it was. And Mark didn't care. So, we had to take away privileges. Like if, my mother or Yale's mother had invited them for dinner or, that's what great because that mattered to him. But spankings, he didn't care. He was tough. And so it didn't matter to him. So there was no point in, threatening with a spanking for, my son. It didn't work.
Doesn't do anything. You got to take away consequences.
Yeah.
You have to have consequences
the most.
So and it has to be consistent. And I think I also told you that they hired one nanny, and he wasn't very smart. They had to get rid of him in a week because she couldn't handle him at all. Because he would outsmart her all the time. That little boy is so cute, her. He's so cute.
He is cute.
He's adorable. And I'm sure he's lots of fun. Just had fun. To do all kinds of things. They have lots of energy, but the problem with little boys and why you have to keep an eye on them is they have no danger antennae.
Hey there.
Hi, Kitty. Hi, cute little guy.
Hi.
Well, what shows up for me as well, and I wanted to bring this also into the conversation, is that there was a friend of mine who was actually talking on a social media app earlier today, and he kind of reached out and contacted me. He's like, Chris, people don't really understand where people are coming from if you don't allow them to express themselves in a way that really works good for them. And what happened was, as he was telling a story and kind of related to John C. Maxwell and everything, and they were talking about intentionality and what was your intention for the day and everything like that. And it was in relation to about showing up authentically and everything. And he was kind of telling a story about John C. Maxwell going through an airport and all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't too soon after he was like in mid-sentence, the guy says, hey, I have to interrupt you here. This is not the focus of our group because it's our intention to do this. And yeah, it was great for you to do that thing about John C. Maxwell and all that. But if it's not coming about from you and about you alone to a certain degree, we have probably pretty much already covered something like that. But see, that's the thing. He didn't allow him to go through to finish up the story and see how it was interconnected to the story of what John C. Maxwell had to go through. How it was interconnected, And see, it's about, and I've said this before, even in a place of leadership, we can work within the model of the world that we work under from even a place of leadership. But if we could step outside of that model of the world to see it from Carla's point of view, Sandy's point of view, Lisa's point of view, Sarah's point of view, then we can be better connected because we're allowing that to be there. Because I will go, of course, from these great quotes. Doing the right thing is the right thing to do. You can't go wrong with right. Create better environments, create better results. And then the ultimate one, which we all love, is listen, learn, and lead. And it's just that simple.
Well, it's a shame that this person put the other person down because they wanted to express their opinion about something. And they were never given the opportunity to even finish their opinion. It was like a control issue that I'm the boss, I'm in control of this conversation, and if you're not going to talk about what we're talking about, then I'm going to cut you off. And it's very disrespectful.
You're quite right, and I think you're right, Carla. And I think also as well, Chris. I think what you're suggesting is as well is mixing sort of conventional methods with modern methods as well. You know, which is today listening to people a bit more. I do apologize. My grandson is really playing up. Excuse me a moment.
Well, she was holding him for a little while too.
I didn't catch what she said.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I couldn't hear her because of the baby. The baby was really crying. I could hear that. But no worries.
Sorry about that.
I feel like in general, the population today is stressed beyond measure and short with one another. And it's really sad that you see posts that say, you know, every place that's open is short employees, so be kind to the staff. It's like, you need a reminder. You have to be reminded. I just don't. That goes without saying. That's like this. We know the sun's going to come up every morning. You may not be able to see it because of the clouds, but the sun is there. And it's going to show up for a good 12 hours a day. It goes without saying. You don't have to be reminded to be nice to people.
Well, you shouldn't have to.
No.
Very true.
So, Lisa, what would be your call to action for today?
Let's see. Call to action today is treat people with respect and, you know, be a part of the solution in that do your part to create a better environment, whether it's at work, at home, out in the community. It takes everyone.
Miss Sandy?
Well, I agree with Lisa. I think that, you know, if you work with people, you should be nice to them. You should be supportive. You should be helpful. And I think if you are, everybody will appreciate your efforts. And if you need some help, it will be very easy for you to get help. But it's, you know, the bottom line again, because most confusion and miscommunication starts because people aren't listening. And if they don't listen to one another, they can't learn about them. And then they can't deal with them in appropriate ways. It's just, you know, a lot of it is just common sense. But unfortunately, these days, there doesn't seem to be a lot of common sense out there. And it's sad. And the only way an organization has a good culture is if everybody's on board. And everybody needs to be nice to everybody else. And gossiping and shaming and blaming and guilting people is not the way to get the best out of people. It never has been, and it never will be. You need to be supportive. You need to be encouraging. You need to be a helpful team member. And if you are, then, you know, other people will be nicer to you, and the team will just work better. But that needs to be demonstrated by the team leader, you know, whether it's the leader of the company or the manager of the team, or, you know, no matter what it is, but they need to walk the walk. They need to be the example. And if they are, then you have a better chance that everybody will get in line. But if they're doing some of these bad things, you're in big trouble. They're in big trouble.
Yeah.
So they can't be doing stuff like that. It's completely inappropriate.
Sarah?
I think for me, my sort of take is that effective leadership is about doing the right thing, you know, on behalf of the community. And I think that it's going to take a combined effort of conventional and new sort of methods, you know, in order to create the right environment, you know, working environment especially. And I think it's also going to involve as well some patience, you know, and effective communication.
Miss Carla?
I agree wholeheartedly about what the other three have said, but I would say that it starts with you taking a look at yourself and looking at your own maturity level, making sure that you're kind and respectful to other people, regardless of whether your opinion matches with them. You're not going to get anybody to follow you and agree with your opinion about whatever if you're shaming and blaming them or coercing them into agreeing with you. It starts with your own maturity and how you show up in the workplace and how you present yourself. Don't wait for your manager to lead the way. Lead the way yourself. Because if you lead the way in a positive direction, you may be the one that the leader will actually say, I kind of like that style. Maybe I need to adopt some of that. And then, you know, if it's not working out, create a plan B.
Yep.
Sometimes you have to walk with your feet.
Almost done.
Absolutely. And my call to action is very simple, ladies. It goes to this great quote that we all truly believe in here at Bringing Humanity Together. Doing the right thing is the right thing to do because you can't go wrong with right. If we do the right things and we stand by them, not only ethically, morally, and principled, we will not only create better leaders, but we also will create a better environment. Like I said before, create better environments that will create better results. So everything interconnects to everything else. And once we see that with our emotional maturity and our maturity in our heads that's saying doing the right thing here is going to be the right thing. But if you're not sure, maybe I need to go to Sandy or to Carla or to Lisa or Sarah to say, hey, I don't know if this might be the right thing to do. Should we do this or should we not? It's recognizing your awareness to such an extent people will not only respect for you doing the right thing, but even be respectful for the things that you may not know that it might not be the right thing to do, but you're not willing to put yourself out there and saying, hey, I'm not going to take the heat for this. I'm just going to take a step back and say, hey, let's find out what will be a better solution. And recognizing that takes a lot of intestinal fortitude to say, hey, I'm not willing to do that. I'm willing to say, hey, let's talk about before we kind of like throw everybody under the bus. And then next thing you know, not only will you lose all respect of everyone else in your organization or community, you kind of lose yourself in the dynamic of, why did I do that? And you kind of play the, what if I could have done that better or should I have done that? And who wants to play that game? It doesn't work for anybody.
Sounds like all great ideas, guys.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're all on the same page as usual. What a surprise.
Ah! And that's what's so good about our group. We have fun. We're engaged. We know how to be able to listen, learn, and lead. And because we believe in doing the right thing is the right thing to do. You can't go wrong with right. So we have that covered here too. But ladies, I am so thankful and honored that you're all part of this great community, organization, journey, passion, mission, purpose, and calling that is Bringing Humanity Together. because we want to do it not only one person at a time, but one company at a time, in one community at a time. And once we do that and build that field of dreams with them, we know that they will come. It's not a matter of if this is going to get big. It's only going to be a matter of when and who actually is on board and everything like that. And again, Carla, great conversation today about guilt and shame. I loved it. And I love everyone's point on this on all the calls this week. It's just truly engaging. And yes, Graham, I have to win the dinner. You have to get on a call. Please. For the love of Pete, get on a call. I need a dinner, please. So
For the love of steak.
say that again. Say that again, Carla.
We'd love to have Graham on the call again, just like we like having Brian on the calls.
Yeah, we love Ryan. Where are you at, Ryan? Where are you at? All right, ladies. Greatly appreciate you guys so much. It was a great and engaging conversation once again. And also, be aware of some great news coming down the pipe. Some news for you. I got to share it with you. I'm not going to tell it here. I got great news. But there's great news coming, though. So you guys have a great day. Make it your day. And remember the mission statement of our organization, which is, if I help you, you help me, then we help we. Have a terrific Thursday, everyone.
Bye, guys. Have a great
Bye.
day.
Have a great evening.
You too.
See you. Bye.